Pat, it's Friday once again.
Yes, Rick. Seems like it's about every 15 minutes we're on this damn call.
Yeah, I'm getting tired of seeing you too. That's what you meant?
Yeah, no, I love seeing you, man.
Oh, okay.
There'll be everything comes to an end. I'll hate to see that one last day, like
one of these days.
We're signing off.
Don't hit me too hard if I fall asleep on you here today. I am tired today, so I'm gonna plow through and get there. So I think and reminding everybody in the banner down there below while we're live, if you want to jump on the call, please do so. We'll let you in. So of course, it depends on who you are. No, we'll let you in. But so Pat, I'm sitting here thinking about the market this week, and we had last weekend Iran sending 300 drones and missiles to Israel, and it affected the market quite a bit. Hello, Danila and George. And so oil spiked up, and and it went up, and here it is today. And yesterday they lobbed missiles back at Iran, and nothing happened to oil. And I looked at that and I thought, our interest rates spiked up. We're sitting here at 7.44, and nothing's really happening in our market. My 7-day moving average. Yeah, new listings are kind of flatlining. New contracts went down just a smidge. Now they're going back up, but nothing's really rocking our market here. And you would think with all of the news that's out there, it's pretty obvious that even getting one rate cut this year is looking slim, that would just jolt and change everything. And I understand from one of our subscribers up in Seattle area, it's changing things up there. But I'm not seeing a whole lot of reaction going on out there. Maybe this is just what normal looks like.
Yeah, seems that way. It just seems as though there's a lot of stuff going on in the world. And sometimes you think, well, when Iran and Iraq kind of got their thing going here the other day, thought there would have been a big flight to safety on the bonds, but it was somewhat of a muted, reaction to a certain degree.
Yeah, and then we look at the stuff that's going on in real estate and thinking, well, it's getting slower and slower. And Jessica takes a couple of our clients out last week and writes an offer on a house, and they had 7 offers on it, and the house needed a new roof. And so you're like, okay, well, where are we? Well, there's Chandler, leading the pack again, going up 5% from last week on the CMI index again. And same with Gilbert, up 5%. And that's where the party is in those two towns right there. And I guess I'll just owe that a lot to Intel at the moment. And so nothing earth shattering there, except in the comments, they do say 10 out of the 17 cities are a seller's market. That's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
We have 2 cities that are balanced, while 5 are in the balance, in the buyer's market, which are Buckeye, Maricopa, Queen Creek, Goodyear, and Cave Creek. So with the exception of Cave Creek, these are all where the new builds are, down on the bottom. So that's to be expected. I look at pending listings, and we did go up last week right here. Not by a lot, but it is going up, which again, with rates going up and news that we're not going to get any more interest rate cuts out there, you would think this would either flatline or go down, but it's not. And I'm raising this stuff because it's kind of puzzling to me. Our month's supply 2.4, and back in January we were 3.5. So that has improved. We look at the average list price per square foot. It's finally starting to come down just a hair after it had this constant climb since the first of the year. So sellers are, they're not shooting for the moon right now. But that's the average list price, and that may have a lot to do with just the mix of houses as well too. So then we get into a little bit more prediction season here, Pat. Home value sales and forecasts with Zillow. And this is where Zillow's saying we're going to be. We're going to be year over year, up 1.4%, month over month, 0.2. Now in Arizona, that's national. We're all blowing that number out. So then we go to our friends at Realtor.com, and they are saying that mortgage rates at the end of the year are going to be about 6.8. I think that's probably a good guess. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so. Mid sixes, high sixes. I think we've seen the ceiling back in October when we saw, the 10-year 4.99, 5%.
They're saying that home prices will be down 1.7. So Zillow's saying we're going to be up 1.4. They're saying we're going to be down 1.7. So nobody's good at predicting, including us. So we only just kind of look out month after month. That's why we weren't saying,
I don't think
nobody predicted what we're facing right now. When we looked, even when we interviewed Barry Habib, he said 5.5, right?
Yep.
Well, look at all the outside noise we got since then.
Yeah.
The amount of spending that occurred after Barry made that prediction that's now working its way through our country and trying to get inflation down. It's not happening.
Well, I think, I was looking at my notes from the Zoom call because I just jot down notes. I was talking before on January 17th, I said on the call, this year's theme will be how much and when will the Feds cut rates, and if any. And, rather than predicting, I think you just have to look at what's a trend, what kind of trends are building. Is there a trend building? I think the trend is just muddling, like you and I have talked about the last couple of months. There really doesn't seem to be any trend, no soft or hard landing. It's just kind of there.
Well, yeah. And you said
predicting.
Yeah, and you said a couple weeks ago, and I'll pull this up too, because this is the economic calendar, right? So as we go into next week, you said it's going to be less about what the central bank does and more about what they say, Fed speak. And they haven't moved anything. They haven't gone up. They haven't gone down. And the market has been doing all that for them. So we get consumer confidence coming out on Tuesday. Wednesday, we get the FOMC interest rate decision on May 1st. That's going to be interesting. I predict that's going to be a big nothing burger.
Next week?
It says here, April, Wednesday, May 1st.
Well, that's okay. April 23rd next week, we've got some auctions and stuff like that. We've got in GDP next on Thursday. So, but then the following week, obviously, first week of May, the following week, I believe.
Yeah, there's a GDP. What are they predicting?
3.9.
Forecast is 2.2.
Yeah.
So if this comes in hotter, well, there goes hope for a rate cut, right? So
yeah.
But it's in pending home sales. They're predicting that they're going to be flat. So that's what's coming down the road. And but it was kind of a little bit of a choppy ride in your market today, wasn't it? Or not today, but this week.
Yeah, today and this week. This is the last 5 days. This is the 5.5% coupon. I mean, got beaten down. Was it Monday? Yeah, Monday we got beaten down like a redhead stepchild. Tuesday kind of bottomed out, and then we firmed up, halfway decent. It had a decent day on Wednesday, and then we got beaten down yesterday, and today it's just been kind of finding a base here. This is the MBS mortgage-backed security 5.5% coupon. You see the rates. I mean, this is a 1 month tracking on rates. Obviously, we had on the 10-year, we had 422 back in March 22nd. I mean, that wasn't that long ago. 3 weeks ago, we go from 422 to 465, 464 on the 10-year. So, it's beating up rates a little bit. But to go back just to show you the rates. You and I talk about, I talk about the rate stack, being a broker, I've got access to different lenders and not being at one particular bank. I'm not beholden to, a mortgage broker in general is not beholden to one bank, which is, it just gives me more flexibility. And I feel like I'm working harder for the client than just saying, hey, I work for ABC Bank. This is my rate. That just always, you've heard me say this probably ad nauseum, but I just love the flexibility of being able to look at different rates and say, hey, I got this lender that is priced out a little bit differently. Pulling up today a $400,000 purchase, 5% down, 780 FICO score. This one lender we just had a conference call today with, Kind Lending. I mean, I don't know if you can see the numbers or not. I can try to blow them up a little further. But I mean, at 6.99, I'm giving a credit of $1,600. The next best priced lender is a cost of almost $4,000.
Wow. So if you're going through one of the online people and they quote you 1699, they're not going to be issuing a credit of 1600. There's probably going to be a fee associated with that.
Yeah, I'm just saying what I'm showing. The point I'm trying to make is obviously there's a variance. I mean, all of a sudden today I pull this up for 5% down. Now this is 5% down. Every lender, when I pull up say 10% down or 15% down or 20% down, that lender might shift. Just definitely on the program. This is not across the board. This is for 5% down. 780 FICO score. But it just goes to show you, highlight how different. That's $5,600 from the difference from one lender to another, which, I don't know about you, but somebody gives you $5,600, that makes a big difference. Yeah,
no kidding. And I like that. It must take a long time that when somebody calls up and says, hey, here's my debt to income ratio. Here's my credit score. What's my rate? And so now you've got to go back to that sheet and go, well, okay, how much are you thinking of putting down? Well, I'm thinking of putting down 15% down. Well, now that whole sheet changes, doesn't it?
It'll change. It kind of surprises me some days. I have to give a shout out to Ryan, one of our viewers. He texted me, kind of working together, and first text he said, he goes, Hey Pat, what's your rate, McMasters? So, he's a good guy. So I had to laugh. I go, by that's sticking to some people, I guess. But
except nobody yelled it at the St. Patrick's Day parade. I was
exactly.
Maybe they'll holler at you at a Costco.
Yeah.
Now, one of the pressures that we're seeing, Pat, and here, Stephanie says everything's fine here in Eastern Mesa. I managed to lock in a good rate before the recent rate hike.
Nice.
Well, that's good. Good, Stephanie. What part of East Mesa? We're looking at the central bank and their decision on rates and everything, but they're facing this. And, I don't know how much of an impact this is going to have, but this is an interesting chart. And I'll blow this up a little bit here too, in that, and I just blew up the wrong page here. I go this one. Learning how to work two monitors. Okay. The U.S. Treasury interest payments, which is where we're at right here. You can see it's really gone up. Well, now this is projection based, assuming the rates don't change. By December 24, our interest payment's going to be $1.6 trillion. If we stay where we're at for higher and longer, assuming a 150 BPS Fed cut, I don't see that coming to you. Puts us right here on our debt. I don't see that. I see the probability of 1.6 trillion being more likely. And so then they've got to go, well, okay, how do we end up dealing with that? And if we end up with that much debt and it really puts pressure on the credit markets, then they got to start making other decisions. Are they going to have to pull rates down just to stabilize things and get credit flowing again? Danelli here says it seems more realistic to predict there will be no rate cuts. In fact, we might even see another rate increase if inflation continues to be a problem. I think that's the $1 million question, Danelli. I think, maybe they're going to capitulate and go, you know what, 3% is probably fine. We're walking away from 2% target. Because they're going to be faced with this.
I don't think they're going to, once they're just going to be quietly just announce, this is just my feeling. I mean, I might be wrong, but I don't think they're going to, I just can't see them publicly saying, hey, we hit our mark and we're good to go. I don't think they're ever going to, I just don't see Powell saying, oh, we hit our mark. And it's kind of, not to get political, but it's kind of like equal rights, like say women's equal rights. I just explained to a buddy of mine that, let's say everybody wants 50, equal rights, 50-50, right? Well, when you hit that 50% mark, you say, hey, we're good to go. Okay, you announce it to everybody. It's just one of those blind numbers you'll never see. So I just don't see them ever announcing, hey, we're
there. We made it.
We're there. Yeah, we're there. We're good to go.
We got a cake in the break room.
Yeah, I just don't see them. I don't know. That's just my gut feeling.
Everybody gets to go home at 2.
And once again, I think if you look back the last year and a half ago when the Fed started increasing rates, nobody caught it. The market just went berserk because nobody expected that to happen. Right? They're kind of we were caught off guard by rates going from 0 to 5%. And I think now that everybody's talking about it, it's kind of it's out there now in the party. I suspect maybe there's gonna be kind of a muted response too there,
And that's what happened. Everybody said, "Uh-oh, let's put our house on the market." And they did. And we got up to almost 20,000 listings. Now we're sitting here at a rate right here that's only slightly lower than what it was right here, and we're sitting at 15,000 listings. So I think the shock of that is gone and people have adjusted to it. I still think if we're sitting here at 15,000 listings again, the difference between this week and last week is less than 100. And now if we get up to 19,000, Pat, and our contracts still stay at 3,200 or below, then I think the increase in closed sales prices will reverse itself.
Yeah.
Asking prices will have to come down at that point. Now, if we do it all of a sudden, then it'll be very noticeable. But if we're doing it like 100, 200 homes a week, it's going to be less subtle because, we're sitting there with a contract ratio of 78%, and we've been there for almost 3 weeks. Yet our listings are going up just a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So, but sales are also starting to follow them just a little bit. So it's going to take a jolt. If you're waiting for prices to come down, one of those two, either sales has to completely fall off the map, which honestly, it already has. We were sitting there at 2,200, 2,400. We're seasonally up to 3,200 now. Listings are just staying put. So if we have some kind of jolt that takes that number and flies it, shoots it to the moon, then we're going to be sitting here on this channel going, look, pricing is going to take a hit, folks. Those of you who've been waiting, hang on, watch the numbers, and if you're listing, be ready to adjust. And so, but we're not seeing that yet. Those are the numbers that have to move. And there can be a lot of things that make that happen. But gosh, look what happened this week. And it's not, didn't rock the boat too much. Kind of surprising.
Yep. It's just the year of the muddling along.
Markets don't like uncertainty, and there's nothing like war that adds uncertainty. And the markets adjusted with it one day and then just kind of, rolled with it. Oh, okay. But that was, we're sitting there watching all those rockets come over and drones, and 99% of them never made it. It really kind of makes you wonder what kind of defense systems we have sitting up there in Alaska right now. Stuff we've never heard of, I'm told. So, but I think next week, it's going to be very interesting, Pat, to see how that GDP number flows in.
Yeah. This next 30 to 60 days, it'll be interesting to see all the numbers that flow in, to see, we've been kind of just muddling along here with no rate cuts, no increases, just muddling along. I think those last couple months has given the Fed, they're like, oh, gee, the accelerator on this economy is still moving along. But it just seems like it's a very bifurcated market, though. I just, you see credit card debt increasing. It's a very weird economic time frame that we're in. And, it's going to be interesting to see the next 30, 60 days how the market reacts and what the Feds react to. Obviously they're talking about maybe there could be an increase, Fed increase. Man, I think that I don't know.
It's going to be
that'll be the thing that probably shakes the trees a little bit even more. if they
Yeah.
do increase rates.
Oh, if they did that, I mean, that's not, I don't think the bond market's anticipating that, but if they did that, well, that's going to be an interesting show. Bebop here has a comment, says, do you really think buyers are going to sign buyer broker agreements before every showing? I think buyers agents are done for. They only have to do it for a period of time. I can't take you out and show you a house. Now, keep in mind, this is proposed in the settlement. It's not inked anywhere yet. And if it is, then you call me and go, Rick, I want to see this house. The reason that they're saying we now have to have a buyer broker's agreement is we want you, the consumer, to understand what the fees could possibly be. For example, you can say, I charge 2%. Okay. If the seller doesn't offer 2% towards the buyer agent commission, buyer broker, because they pay my broker, they don't pay me, then the broker pays me, and they're all different. Then you and I have to reach an agreement on what you will pay. Will you pay me 2%? And if you don't, and let's say there's a home that comes along and says, we're going to write an offer on it, and I have a buyer broker agreement that says, if you're going to, if they're going to pay, I charge 2%. If they're willing to offer 2%, great. We go through with the deal. And then you say, well, if they're not willing to pay 2%, I'm sorry, I'm not ponying up. Then at least you and I have that agreement. We understand, to where I can go, okay, well then now you have to deal with them directly. That's what the whole point of that buyer broker's agreement is. It's not going to kick buyer agents to the curb. You just have to have an understanding with your buyers where we stand. Now, there's been some good news in that this week, Pat, right? Where we were worried that, right now you actually are financing that buyer broker, what we call shared compensation, with the buyer's agent, because it's built into the price of the home. So it's financed.
Mm-hmm.
Well, now Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, and VA have said that sellers can offer a concession to pay that commission. And it, they used to have, Fannie Mae would have restrictions on that. You can only offer like 2% of the total purchase price as concessions. They're now letting you break it out separately. Yeah, we have the 2% lid, but you can still offer a buyer, broker compensation. So they've loosened that up, because we were really worried about because veterans are not allowed to pay. I can't draw a buyer broker agreement with a veteran and say, hey, if they don't pay me, you will. They can't.
Mm-hmm. And
so we're also seeing that sellers really aren't pushing back on this. They're going, well, I want my house sold. If you're charging a 5% commission, and that's kind of where the industry is, then okay, I'll sign to that. And 2.5 can go to the buyer's agent, 2.5 to you, your brokerage. And we're not seeing a lot of shakeout in that. And the ones that are out there that are listing your home for 1% have always been there. The Redfins of the world.
Mm-hmm.
There's a new push by 72 sold now with, 990.com. That's always been out there. So I'm not seeing the jolt of that. Now, if somebody decides they want to go it alone, then there's some watch outs and things that you should do. And if you're deciding that you want to list your home and you don't want to pay a buyer broker, there's options that you have too. And because people don't understand that, that's why I put a link in the description about consulting. Book a call with me and I'll walk you through everything, because it's going to be the summer of confusion. I don't think buyers agents are done with. Go ahead, Pat.
No, I just will that basically result in this listing agent kind of being a dual agent then?
Well, I'll talk about that in a second. Let me get to Danelle's comment here. If inflation dips to 2%, the Federal Reserve subsequently reduces rates, leading to increased spending due to lower borrowing costs, wouldn't this reignite inflation? I think so.
Oh, yeah.
I think it will. Yeah. I don't want to see it. Look, I'm okay if rates stay where they're at for a while. I've been hoping this market will balance out for a long time. I don't want it to go poof. Let's go. Let me show you 5 homes and never be able to write a contract.
In my simple economic mind, I studied econ, but I just try to break it down simplistically in my mind too, though. But in the back of my mind, all these interest rate hikes, I sit back and watch this Fox Business, Business News Network and all that, and they talk about interest rate hikes. But how much? I'm just going to throw this out very simplistically. How much does this really have to do with that interest rate hike? Have to do with food, electricity, your day-to-day basic stuff? It does and it doesn't. That makes sense.
Well, it does in your buying decisions. I think in the data they're saying we're looking at core inflation minus food and energy, but I don't look at inflation minus food and energy.
No,
I cringe every time I go to the grocery store, and I cry every time I put gas in my car.
Well, that's what I mean. They take out food and energy, but those are the two things that are killing people: food, energy, and insurance costs. I mean, and that's the thing that interest rates. I mean, the interest rate hikes or decreases do not affect. I mean, just keep it simple. I'm not looking at every detail in the book, but just breaking it down very simple. Interest rate hikes do not affect car insurance.
No, not at all. Bebop's asking, how elastic is inventory with rates in the Cromford data? 1 month, 6 weeks. They update some charts once a month, some daily, some weekly. So I look at, that's why I have my chart where I keep a 7-day running average. So in the past, when we've seen a big jolt in interest rates, we saw it here. See that? And so I was able to look at it.
The last couple of years, the rates have been it's been very elastic as far as rates and housing demand. We've seen that.
The gap is widening. Boy, not much. I don't see it. If you see down there below, the contract ratio on the 7-day moving average, 78%. It's been there. It's been there for quite some time, about 2 months anyway. It went up to 82, came down to 77, went back up 78, and it stays there. I mean, I've got it just to show people what I'm looking at here. And then you had the question on the by dual agency. Don't let me forget that, Pat.
Okay.
Here's the chart. I've been tracking this since dirt, and you can see up here 75, 81, 80, 81, 81, 81, 82. This is where we've been. 73, 76. So 82, 77. I mean, that's where we've been. And so bit of an eye chart, but don't worry, you're not the one that types that in every day. It's me. So
man, you live on the edge of life.
Yeah. Spreadsheet hell. I'm really fast on a 10 key machine, right? That's probably the only thing I learned in high school. In fact, when I worked at the grocery store and we used to key in with a 10 key, customers told me to slow down. And so I ended up in this bakery in Southern California. We were sales managers, and we had to add up all these columns. We were trying to put some data together, and I'm sitting there with these sheets of paper in front of me, and I'm going, and the other guys are. So finally they go, Rick, can you add mine up and hand it to me? So they're all handing me all their pieces of paper. I'm typing them up and printing them out, something and hand it to them. I just ended up being the 10 key guy for, 3 hours in this meeting. And so I'm not that fast anymore, but dual agency, let's explain what dual agency is. Dual agency is where I've got a listing and I have a fiduciary agreement to the seller. I'm listing your house. If the seller says to me, Rick, I'm listing this for 5.25, I'll go down as low as 5, but I'd like to get 5.25. I can't tell anybody that you're willing to go down to 5. I have a fiduciary duty. Keep that between us, just like a lawyer. Okay, now what happens if I have dual agency? So you come to me, Pat, and you don't have a real estate agent, and you want a house, so I sign dual agency. Dual agency says, oh, I also represent Pat, and I have a fiduciary duty with Pat. So now here's the tricky part. You come to me and go, Rick, they're asking 525. I'm going to offer them 520, but I'm willing to go down to 510. Okay. Yeah. Now that's the challenge. And that's where lawsuits rile up, because now I got to go back to the seller and go, okay, he's offering 520. And he goes, you think he'll go any lower? Well, you got to put your poker face on now.
That's the thing. I just never really trusted dual agency because once again, it's like an attorney representing both sides of the case. I don't, if you're going
And
to hear,
that's going to surface up. The lawsuits are going to
Yeah.
start. And guess what? We're going to have buyer agency again. The whole thing's going to revert back to where it was.
I just don't think realistically you're going to get I have dealt with buying agents. They bust their tail. You bust your tail. Jessica, Jackie, Ruby, the agents I've worked with in the past. It's just when you're presented some information from the buyer and you've got information on both sides, how can you negotiate in good conscious faith, on both sides? I just can't see it.
Well, the only option you have in a scenario like that is to tell the seller, tell me what you would like me to take back to the buyer and let's see where it goes.
Yeah.
And you go back to the buyer and go, here's where they came in. And the buyer goes, what do you think? Well, tell me what you would like to. So you're not offering an opinion at all, where is if I only represented the seller,
yeah,
and I was not representing the buyer, I would get to tell them what my gut feeling is.
Yeah.
You know what? I think we got some wiggle room to pull them down up a little higher. Okay. In dual agency, I don't get to say that.
Well, you're if you think about it, the power of negotiating is just kind of a moot point, right?
Oh, dual agency, there is no negotiating anymore.
Yeah, I mean, you're basically, because you're just like you said, you're throwing on your poker face. If the buyer tells you something, like, well, the buyer said, 5, 10, I just couldn't. I couldn't look somebody in the eye, and that would just.
Yeah, Terry goes, you get the whole 5%, hook up the trailer and party. You don't get to spend that if you get sued. So, you get dual agency, you get more. That's why a lot of agents hold open houses. They're open, a buyer comes in without an agent. I've turned that down before. It depends on the people. Sometimes you can't, like that. You can imagine that 1.2 million house that I had in Scottsdale with a common friend that we had, and what a nightmare that was. Do you think I would have entered into dual agency at all with that guy?
No. Yeah. That would have been a nightmare.
Nope. I'd have said, let me find you an agent.
Yeah.
Don't even bring it to me.
Well, I think, anybody that's smart, in business, I mean, there's a lot of smart people out there. I think that there's just, to me, it just seems like there's too much conflict, just way too much conflict.
Well, I've seen a video out by Jason Mitchell, the Jason Mitchell Group, and he had a video talking about the NAR settlement. And he said he's only been sued twice in his real estate career. Both times it was because of dual agency. So he says, I don't do it anymore.
Really?
A lot of people willing to jump in and do that. And a lot of buyers that may be forced to do that. Because let's face it, a lot of buyers are not going to have that money to pay a buyer agent commission.
No.
I get it. They're not going to have it. Okay, so unless you're getting seller concessions like we do today, that it's built into the price, they have no choice but to go directly to the seller and say, no. There's another option called unrepresented buyer. Okay, in other words, you go to me, I've got a listing, you're unrepresented. I just draft up an addendum that says you are an unrepresented buyer. Nobody's representing you. You're on your own. Now I can still have a fiduciary duty with my seller going, well, this guy doesn't have a rep and I don't think he knows what he's doing. I think we can get him up another 10K. That part, I'm not violating anything. And because the guy's coming at me unrepresented, buyer beware, they're on their own. So they're going to have somebody kind of help them with the timelines, the legalities, the forms. Now they can write me an offer on a napkin if they want, if they're unrepresented, but I'm going to take it and I'm going to counter back by writing it on an official Arizona approved purchase contract, send it back to them. Here's our counter offer. It's on the right contract. Yeah. The offer's still on a napkin, so we saved that, but we've just put it on a more legal form. And but if you're unrepresented, I don't have any fiduciary duty to watch out for you at all, even in inspections. I don't even have to remind you of your deadline. That's up to you. You've got 10 days. Day 10 comes, you haven't sent me anything. I'm telling my seller, let's just hold our breath. He hasn't even responded yet.
Yeah.
So it just lurks of ideas of ways for things to fall apart in a hurry. And there are brokerages out there right now that are already trying to be preemptive, saying, okay, what kind of disclosure forms are we going to have to come up with to protect ourselves from things that may happen? But I don't think many buyers know what they have to have in their hands to protect themselves.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I mean, I did a video a couple days ago just about, I think it came out last night, buyers, the way you can lose your earnest money. And look, new construction costs about 20 to 25,000 for a good faith deposit. And it's pretty easy to lose that with a new build. And you got to know what you're doing so that you don't lose that. Because I know a guy, he was going to buy a home with a 401k, his money. He was going to put a huge amount down, retire. And guess what happened? The market collapsed. Well, now he didn't have the money. Well, so what? You're supposed to exercise good faith in making sure, if I say I'm putting 100,000 down, I better take that 100,000 and park that somewhere so that it doesn't lose its value. If I don't and it goes down, I'm still responsible. I lose my earnest money. A lot of people don't know that.
Yeah.
Blue Pool here says, one of our great subscribers, I want to put a house on the market and can afford a new 30-year roof. Existing roof does not have a leak, but it's over 20 years old and looks old too. Roofer tells me 20,000. Opinion? You want to put a new roof on it? If it financially works for you, and you can afford a new roof, that's the first thing I would do. If you can't, you can try negotiating. Now, the offer that Jessica wrote for us this week was trying to get them to give our buyers a concession so that they could put on a new roof. But all in all, buyers don't want to move in and then have a bunch of hammers above them for a good week.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So if you can fix the roof ahead of time, your money, because there's two things that really stand out on a listing. One, new roof, new AC. That puts buyers at ease. So that's what I would do. Roofer tells you 20K, shop that around as well.
I think Jessica's got a couple good contacts in the roofing business here in the Phoenix area. Yeah.
Yeah. So. Shoot me an email with that question. If you want to look for another roofer, we can send you a couple of referrals there. Because she referred one to me as well. And he was considerably cheaper than the one that I got the first quote. And he was good.
Yeah.
So he helped me on a house down in Ocotillo. So.
Hey, I want to throw in, I mentioned, I get this, anybody that's interested, any real estate agents that are watching us or clients, you had mentioned, I've got this, why don't you flash up my screen here. I get this newsletter from, the mortgage, the mortgage net daily, the mortgage news that I get now, that the service I get sign up a handful of people on a weekly market newsletter. It's a pretty cool newsletter. There's a lot of information here, talks about rates and, it gives you charts and stuff like that. If anybody wants to send me or Rick, an email, I can put you on the email list here. I'm kind of I don't have a room for a lot, but if people want to see some weekly data, gives you kind of a good rundown at the end of the week of what the heck happened, kind of what, this is the information that we use. So,
yeah, that's really handy for realtors out there,
yeah.
When you're trying to figure out what's going on with rates in the market, just getting an update once a week. I know a lot of you know where to find us and look it up, but just having it in your inbox on a Monday morning is not a
It comes out Friday afternoon.
Friday afternoon. That's even better. Yeah, you can read it during happy hour.
Yeah.
You can try to do that. So, yeah, that's a good one, Pat. So just send Pat an email. His information is in the description down below, and just say, Pat, I would like the newsletter. And I've got my link in there for my newsletter. There's 132 of you on that now. It goes out every Monday morning at 7:00, and you guys are very good at opening that up. I share pretty much a lot of the stuff that we have here and just recap it. And then I'm adding now on Sunday nights, I do a video recap on Sunday nights of what went on during the week, just trying to see what kind of legs that has for people. And this was the third week I've done that. The first one, I made a big mistake and uploaded the wrong video and it wasn't completed. And instead of being like 14 minutes long with stuff, it was about 4 minutes. And it ended abruptly. It didn't make a lot of sense. So, but you live by the tech and you die by the tech, Pat. So
yeah, exactly.
What happens. Well, look, my friend, you have a good weekend. And is it supposed to be hot this weekend? I haven't even looked.
Yeah, it's supposed to be. I mean, we're coming into summer here, but here we go.
Well, I think it's we're gonna have a couple days next week where it
It's in the 80s.
really gets up there.
Yeah,
And then I
98,
think
and then it goes on to 88.
yeah, so that's not too much relief. So I better get my butt back up to Prescott again. So
Yep.
it's in the planning stages.
Yeah. Well, thanks for everybody for watching.
All right. Thanks to our millions
Yep.
of viewers. At this point, 27 million. Have a good weekend, Pat. Take
See you,
care.
buddy.